What is up, everybody? Good afternoon, good evening, wherever the heck you guys are calling in from. We've got another episode of Behind the Deal. We've got a special guest today we'll introduce you guys to, or reintroduce you guys to, if you've been following Carrot for years. But if you are listening to this on the podcast, if you're listening to this over on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, make sure you go on your cell phone or on your computer to carrot.com/deal. That's carrot.com/deal, because every other week we do these live. So number one, get a reminder so you can hop on live with us, ask questions, engage. Number two, you can also check us out on YouTube. So you're probably going to get a lot more value on these episodes by watching the YouTube version of it, carrot.com/deal, and or just go to YouTube over there and find us, find Carrot. But I've got Mr. Brady Winder, who runs the show over here. Brady, what the heck is up, man? We got Carrot Camp coming up next week, dude. So we're kind of all running
Carrot Camp,
getting it ready.
Dude, Carrot Camp is coming up. It's really fun, selling out. Shoot, first Carrot Camp sold out less than a day. And, back in the day, it was like really quick, throw it together last minute. Now it's a full-blown thing. We got 2 groups, so we'll have 30 awesome people in here next week. I'm really excited. Yeah. It's my favorite thing of the year, man.
I love it. Yeah. It's going to be fun, man. And speaking of Carrot Camp, Tyler Ford has been to Carrot Camp before. We're going to reintroduce you here in a second, Tyler. But guys, if you guys are interested in checking out Carrot Camp, check it out, carrotcamp.com. But that's not why we're here today. So I want to bring on today's guest, and we do have a sponsor in this series. And Tyler and I actually were just talking about the sponsor right before we hit record on this. So one thing that many of you may or may not know is, here at Carrot, we really focus immensely on helping you guys get the leads, helping you get the best leads. We're going to talk about one of those leads in this deal today, the estate sale hoarder deal, where Tyler had a chance to really serve that seller well and made a $35,000 wholesale profit. So we'll break down the deal in detail here. But Tyler recently decided to upgrade his CRM and follow-up system on the investor side to InvestorFuse. InvestorFuse is a company that we recently had a chance to purchase. We bought the company in January, and we're really diving in with that company big time to innovate more, improve the product even more. And if you guys need to take your leads, and let's say you have more leads you can handle than you can handle manually, then you probably should add on some sort of follow-up system, some sort of system, especially if you have a team. InvestorFuse is amazing for that. You just integrate it with Carrot. All your leads will flow over there. It'll tell you, you'll be able to sort your leads by lead source. You'll be able to move your leads through the lead cycle, in everything that is related to managing that deal from getting the lead all the way to closing it and collaborating with your team. So you guys check it out, investorfuse.com. But let me introduce Mr. Tyler Ford. Dude, this is your first Behind the Deal with us, right? I mean, you've been
I like these live streams. It's the first Behind the Deal, and I listened to a lot of Behind the Deals with other podcasts. So I'm glad you brought this one on. They're worth everything in terms of just figuring out the little things you can do to tweak a deal in order to get a deal.
Dude, heck yeah, man. We're going to be breaking down on this one, guys. We're calling it, once again, the estate sale hoarder deal. And I'm going to give you the high level really quick, but then we're going to introduce Tyler fully. Then we're going to dive into this deal and take any Q&A if you guys want. But number one, this right here, $35,000 profit. There's 300 rolls of paper towels that come with it. We'll talk about that here in a second. I'm looking in the notes.
COVID stash.
Yeah, the person stayed for 4 months. They were an evicted homeowner. You had to evict the homeowner. I'm assuming. We'll dive into all this stuff, guys, but it was a complicated transaction. So if any of you guys are working any leads that you're like, oh my gosh, there's so many moving parts to this, or if you're an agent that's watching this and you would look at a transaction like this and never think that you could actually help the client and you walk away from it, I'm going to show you how, or Tyler's going to show you how a hybrid investor agent was able to make $35,000 profit, solve this big problem, and make it happen. So I'm going to toss it over to you, Tyler. Dude, why don't you let people know who you are, and then we'll break down the deal.
So Tyler Ford here, Tucson, Arizona. I'm an investor/agent. I've been a licensed agent for over 30 years. Did my first foreclosure right out of college. That's what got me hooked, and just been buying and selling real estate since. And since Carrot, I've transitioned to over to majority of my leads are organic SEO. So I ditched all the other things and just went all in on my Carrot site. And majority of everything that I do in terms of the lead flow is just organic SEO.
And dude, that's one thing we talk about obviously a lot here at Carrot, because that's our specialty. And are you still finding that your organic SEO leads tend to be far better quality leads than the other types of leads that you're getting or other investors are getting.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, they're chasing you. You're not chasing them. They
Mhm.
opted in. So, when you send out a postcard, you get a postcard and you get calls and they're like, okay, you want to buy my house? What do you want to pay for it? And it's like,
Mhm.
and you're like, I don't know. What do you want? And they're like, well, you reached out to me. So when they're
Yep.
reaching out to you, it's a totally different situation. And, I love the organic SEO leads that come in because they're pursuing you rather than you pursuing them. There's a big
I love
difference.
it. I love
For
it.
context, if y'all want to go listen, Tyler's actually probably one of our most popular podcast guests, both in terms of
Mhm.
you've been on the podcast. We've had you on, I think, 3 or 4 times or something. And as well as your episodes are some of our best performing. People love to listen to them. I don't know. Maybe it's your voice. It's a podcast. I don't know, Tyler. People love you.
It's all of it.
No, he's got a
It's
really
the
good story, and it's
wisdom, the
cool if you guys
voice,
want to.
the good looks, everything.
Yeah.
It's everything. But guys, go back and listen to the first time we had him on the podcast. Just go to the Carrot Cast and search Tyler Ford. And
Oh, and thanks
you
to
can-
Trevor, I was kind of on the way out, man. I was at my all-time low, and I literally went on a road trip and ended up at Trevor's doorstep, just kind of searching. And Trevor set me straight and got the turned the ship around, and it's been awesome since.
I love it, man. I love it. And I want to give you the credit there though, because you drove 1,000 miles or whatever it is to come up here, and you set the ship straight. We just gave you the path, and we were kind of the guide saying, hey, this is possible. Go down this path. It's going to lead you towards better. And you trusted it and did it, and you executed. That's something where a lot of people listening to this right now, whether you're on the podcast or the YouTube side of it, I want you to use this as an example, as a guide to show you what's possible. And then you can plug into what we have and plug into the episodes with Tyler and plug into other training that we have and go, okay, now let me take that path, work it until it works, and just trust it, because it works. It works like mad, but you got to put in the work for sure. For sure. Well, dude, I'm going to toss over to you, Tyler and Brady. Why don't you guys break down the deal, the estate sale hoarder deal? And I know you've got a
And
really
when you
killer
say
mind map. And
estate
we
sale,
can kind
Trevor, it wasn't an actual estate sale. I ended up
okay.
selling all their stuff in an estate sale.
I got you. Cool.
We had the artwork. That's my bad on the direction there. It's almost a misnomer. It sounds like she's hoarding estate sales, like someone.
Well,
who's
she was a
of
hoarder,
estate.
and I ended up with all of her stuff, and she was actually an expensive, like good stuff hoarder. It wasn't junk. So,
Yeah.
I mean, part of my profitability, and I mean, when you say 35K, that didn't include the estate sale profit of 10K of all her stuff that she literally, but we'll get into that. But the estate sale was me selling her stuff in an estate sale.
Yeah, it's got a
Gotcha.
lot. Yeah, this deal has a lot of funny nuances and directions. Let's get into it. So we'll break down the marketing, the negotiation, what kind of details, hoops you had to jump through, because there were a number of hoops with this one. I think that's what people can learn from. And if y'all are watching this, ask your questions in the chat. But yeah, marketing. How did you get the lead?
So the lead came in. It was organic SEO. It came in through Carrot, and the lead came in, and I just started working it. It went into my CRM and started working the lead. Typically, the way I do things, I do it a little bit different. I initially get on the phone and just make sure we're on the same page in terms of price and expectations. And then what I always do is I send out a letter of intent that's really simple, and it just highlights in bullet points like price and everything that I'm willing to do, rather than send them over a contract or put a contract in their face. I do a letter of intent always. And usually, the response is, yeah, let's move forward. And so I go from letter of intent to purchase contract. In this case, she spoke English, but it was kind of hard to communicate over the phone. So I drove to her house with the purchase contract based on the agreed upon letter of intent that I had her sign in person.
Do you know? Oh,
you're good, man.
Do you know what they were searching for by chance? What search term or no?
I don't. I'd have to go back and look. I don't know. It came through, the home page of one of my various Carrot sites. But I remember the first conversation I had with her, the most important thing, and you gotta dig deep to kind of find out their pain points and what their motivation is. But her biggest motivation was the ability to sell the home, get all of her proceeds, and then live there rent-free for 30 days. And that's one of our unique selling benefits. And I have a video that's one of the things that we highlight. Hey, get money in your hand. We'll relieve the stress and the pressure. Cause a lot of, one of the biggest anxieties with a lot of motivated sellers is, you're going to buy their home and then they've got to immediately be out, and they got to move out and don't have any place to go. So we always give them that option. And depending on the situation and just my gut feeling, typically what we do is do an escrow holdback. So if they're in the home and we're going to allow them to stay there, I create a little bit of leverage in terms of an escrow holdback. And in this case with her, just because I knew she had a lot of stuff, even though I believed that she would be out of there that in 30 days, like she told me, I did a $5,000 escrow holdback, just as leverage. And I would encourage everybody to do the same. If they're letting somebody stay in the home for a period of time, do a escrow holdback.
So that right there, those little tiny tips like that, guys. Jose had just mentioned right now too. Post occupancy key is key now. Those little strategies are key. So if you guys are doing that, listen to Tyler and do that escrow holdback, so you don't have someone staying in there for 60 days or 90 days, then you've got to try to yank them out of there. They have an incentive to get out of there. So with that there, Tyler, if they did not move out on time, would they not get the 5K and it would be forfeited, or would they get, even if, let's say they moved out 90 days out, they'd still get the full 5K?
Well, it just depends, it's all based on communication and things like that. But she went radio silent on me. And
I got you.
So day 30 rolled around and I'm like, I'm, what's going on? And, I checked in before that, radio silent. Day 30 came, radio silent. I drove out to her house. All of her stuff was still there. I'm like, oh, great. So then email, phone call, radio silent. Anyway, one day I went up there again and I was sitting in her driveway and I see her coming around the corner and she saw me and her eyes lit up. And, I was blocking her driveway and she couldn't get in, and she saw me. And by that point, I got out and she knew she couldn't avoid me, and she apologized and promised me she'd be out in a couple weeks. And anyway, I didn't believe what she said just based on all the stuff that she had. And I've got compassion, for that type of person. I was friendly and nice and just reminded her, but my gut feeling said, don't wait. And I immediately started the eviction process, knowing that she probably wouldn't be out. And I'm glad I did, because she would have rode this thing. I mean, I truly believe in this case. And in 30 years, I've never, ever had somebody in this situation go radio silent that I've agreed to let stay there after close of escrow. So on the way home, I called my attorney and we started the eviction process. But the nice thing about it, I'm going to get some of this verbiage wrong. The nice thing about an eviction with somebody that is a holdover, they're not a tenant because there's no lease. So if it was a rental property that you're buying, which we do all the time to get a discount, and you're dealing with renters, it's a whole different situation, because the eviction process is harder, longer, and you've got to store all their stuff. But since she was not a renter and she was a holdover, and again, this is where I'm going to get the verbiage wrong, the eviction process was streamlined. And at the end of the day, I didn't have to, her stuff became mine. And that was I kind of felt bad doing it, but it is what it was. So we started the eviction process and went all the way to like the last day, and showed up with the constable and the locksmith on the day of the actual eviction, gun holsters and guns ready, and the locksmith, drilling the key to not know what we were dealing with when we walked inside.
Gotcha. And so when you guys got in there, it sounds like it was still full of the items she'd hoarded over years and years.
Yeah. I mean, I was blown away that she literally, and again, with hoarders and things like that, it's just overwhelming for them. They don't quite know what to do. And I tried to help her. I've got a moving truck, and I went out of my way to try to help her just to get her out. But the day that we showed up, we walked in, and to my surprise and all of our surprise, she left everything.
Really?
Everything. Huh. I mean, everything.
Wow.
And so, We got in there, got it rekeyed. And then at that point, you know, it was like, okay, what's the action plan to get this thing cleaned up? So the first thing that I did is there's a couple really good companies that do estate sales. And in this one, what I had them do, they can either do it on the spot, but since it was so cluttered and dirty, I had them come and they spent 3 days taking everything out of the house and organizing it and taking it back to their location to then sell it at the company that I use is a big company, and they got a big retail outlet thing, and they sell everything over time. When it's all sold off, they send you a check. So long and short of it, they cleaned it all out. And I think within like 60 to 90 days, I had a check in the mail for $10,000.
Dude, that's what was their take of it? So what does a company like that charge?
I think they took maybe 25%, 20, 25, 30% of the gross sales, gross proceeds.
Cool. And
but yeah, they made it easy because they got everything out. And this company also does all the junk. So like they organized and put all the junk in the garage. We ended up, did I get a dumpster? Yeah, I got a dumpster. We put everything in the dumpster, basically had the house cleared out in like 3 or 4 days. And then the house was awesome. I mean, it was a nice, in a nice neighborhood, nice home. Once I got everything cleaned out, we had it painted. We had it professionally cleaned, interior painted, and it was, brand new once I got her out of there. Put it in the MLS and wholetailed it off.
Dude, so what was the thing that pops up for me, and what might pop up for people watching this as well? And I'm speaking to agents here a lot. I was on a call with about 9 or 10 real estate agents yesterday in 3 different calls. And one of the things I'm always trying to drive into the retail side is there's a lot of real estate problems out there that need solved, that traditional agents don't approach those types of deals to try to solve them. It overwhelms them. This is one of those types of properties where the traditional agent would not look at this and go, oh my gosh, I can solve this. But investors do. And you get paid really well. You get paid really well for the bigger problems that you solve. If you're a traditional agent and you're quote unquote just listing the property or just showing properties, and you've got your license, and there's a lot of work you do in there, right? But your pay is in proportion for the problem that you're solving. And so then if you're solving a bigger problem like this, then bigger pay gets attached to it. So what was the challenge or problem that this seller was going through? Maybe you mentioned it before and I might have missed it, but what was the problem or challenge the seller was going through that elicited them to even hit the internet and Google and find your site?
Well, it's a great question. I look back on this transaction and ask myself, why would she even do what she did? I do think she was behind and needed some money. She wasn't in foreclosure, but she was behind on her payment. I think just because she was an expensive hoarder, she probably, she ran out of money. And that was her biggest pain point, is the ability to put 100% of that money minus the escrow holdback in her pocket. She owned the place free and clear. And I think I offered, I'd have to go back and look. So she put, over a couple $100,000 cash in her pocket, and she was living there rent free. But my gut feeling was she was out of money and behind on some things.
And probably overwhelmed too, right?
Yeah.
Because of what she had built up around her. And that might be one of those situations where, some people might be looking at this and going, oh my gosh, she left all of her things, and did she want them or need them? That literally might've been her way to escape.
Well, it was, and even yard work. I mean, deferred maintenance. I mean, the house, it had solar, it had elastomeric paint on it. I mean, there were some things of the home and it was a really nice home in a nice neighborhood, but it just needed to be cleaned up inside and out. And she was overwhelmed with just the filth and, the cleaning and some of the deferred maintenance items, not necessarily being the big ticket items that ruin a home, but more or less just the lack of cleanliness and accumulating a bunch of stuff that she couldn't see through.
I like it. So one thing you and I talk about a lot, Tyler, whenever we hop on, is we talk about the hybrid side of things. And so with this transaction here, what is your approach when you're approaching that client? Are you approaching the client from the investor side of it, and what does disclosure look like in the state of Arizona as far as on the retail side? Or did you approach it from the retail side first and then it went to the buy side?
Well, kind of both. With her, I had, I felt sorry, had some compassion, knew that she could,
Mhm.
being where the home was and it was a nice home. I always disclose that I am an investor agent. And with her,
Mhm.
I gave her the option of helping get her out and then me listing it and putting the most amount of money in her pocket. And that would have taken longer, and I was willing to help with and I
Mhm.
mentioned some of these things, and she wanted nothing to do with that. And her biggest motivation was putting as much money in her pocket as quick as she can. I mean, once she signed the contract, we literally closed. I think that she had a leased solar with Tesla, and we were ready to close like in 3 or 4 days, but we had to wait to get that lease transferred over to us.
Oh.
But she yeah, I mean, I offered both scenarios, and I always disclose up front that I'm an
Mhm.
investor slash agent, and
Cool.
it's never hurt
Can
me. It
you,
actually helps me, in my opinion.
Love
Taylor?
it.
I'm curious. Can you would you mind role playing and walk me through what does that sound like? What do you tell someone? You say, "Hey, I'm an investor agent." Is that simple? How do you
Well,
explain that?
yeah, I mean, I tell them I'm not here to list your home. I'm here to buy your home. I do have to disclose that I'm a licensed agent, and I've been one for over 30 years, but primarily as an investor. And I can give you couple different options. But again, I know your motivation is to want to sell. But if you're willing to look at some other options and explore how you could put more money in your pocket, would you be open to that? And they'll tell you. I mean, I ask
Hmm.
the question and they'll say, no, I'm like, I know what I want to do. Or, well, yeah, how much like those other options and how much more money would I net? And how much longer would it take? It usually the big question is, they're exchanging speed and convenience for price,
Yep.
and typically it's the speed that they're looking for. But if they're not in a big hurry, I'm always like, if you're not in a hurry, let's do it this way. And if we don't get it sold in a certain period of time, here's my offer. So you've got this backstop of
Yep.
potentially worst case scenario, but let's shoot for a better case scenario.
Cool.
I just go in,
Hmm.
honest with them and transparent. And as a result, they begin to trust and like you. And regardless of what they decide to do, they're much more open to wanting to go with you, regardless if you play it that way.
I love that
Mhm.
transparency. I was talking with another agent recently, and he said he's got a really interesting model where him and his, or excuse me, I was talking with the investor, and he brings an agent with him to the appointment. And there was also the male female dynamic. So the investor happened to be male, the agent happened to be
Mhm.
female. And so they bring both because he said it just works really well because you don't know who the seller is going to be, what that relationship is. So it works sales wise to bring two genders. But thought it
Mhm.
was really interesting to just be totally open, honest, transparent, and say, "Hey, look, we have these multiple options." So, if
Right.
she had said, how would the conversation have gone differently if she said, "Hey, Tyler, I've got 3 months. I need to be out of here in 3 months, and I want to get as much money as possible, and I can even help get rid of some of my stuff." What would you have said
Mhm.
then? How would the deal have
Well,
changed?
yeah, I mean, we needed in order for her to maximize her profit, she would have had to move out. So the question would be, how do we either sell off a lot of her stuff or hoarders? That can be a hard task. But
Mhm.
if she was open to that, I would have laid out a plan to help her. Whether she would have done it or not, who knows?
Is
Um,
that plan getting her a rental, getting her something in the
Probably
meantime?
putting some money in her pocket. I would do a memorandum. So, if I just had one recently, similar situation. She wanted some money up front because she needed to move out. And I recorded a memorandum, which keeps everybody honest because I gave her 5K. We're talking about another deal. So in this case, what I would have done is I would have given her some money up front in order to be able to get out. I would have recorded a memorandum, which then protects me. Still would have opened up. No, we wouldn't open up escrow just because she would have been selling at retail. So I would have recorded the memorandum to protect me, which I would have got back once she sold the home.
Mm.
Hmm, I like that. That's
That's cool.
interesting. Got to get creative.
Mhm. And guys, one thing we really want to drive in here too, and I'm going to keep on banging this drum, is this type of deal would not have been done if you're an agent and weren't embracing the hybrid side of it. And so, if you guys are watching the video side of it here, Tyler literally has EXP shirt, EXP in the background. He's clearly an agent, and he has an amazing team there too. But he leads with the investing side of it, right? Like you said, he leads with that, but then he always offers both options, because then you're truly serving them as a consultant to solve their problem, not as an agent to list your house or an investor to buy your house. I'm a consultant to solve your problem. I've got multiple ways to do that, which is really, really cool.
And back to Brady's question that I forgot, I always do the takeaway close. Like, why would you want to sell to somebody like me when you could list it in the MLS and make more money? Like, I want to see you put the most amount of money in your pocket. So like, tell me, why wouldn't you want to do that? And so I usually do the takeaway close. Like, you don't need me. This is your better route. And the more you push them that way, the more they want to go the other way.
You say you need Tyler 2.0, the agent. And then the cape comes up, wardrobe change. You need this Tyler.
That's right. That's right.
So I mean, I typically offer them what I think is best for them in terms of netting the most amount of money. And, sometimes they go that way and they appreciate my honesty, and other times they're set. They need to move quick. But I always typically kind of do the takeaway up front and let them know that they're going to net an extra 10, 15, 20K if they were to list it in the MLS.
Yep. I like it. Well, Tyler, I want to ask a couple questions here. I guess number one, Brady, Tyler, is there anything else on this particular deal to break down? If not,
I mean, just the whole basics of like, there were, I kept the escrow holdback money. So I got the 5K.
Yep.
I netted about 10K from the estate sale, and the net profits on the investment side was 30K. And then I got my real estate commission.
There we go.
That's what I was going to, the commission. So
the commission
property.
Yeah. So I listed it in the MLS, owner agent. And, our EXP allows us to do it as long as we can't do dual agency, in terms of I can't represent both buyer or seller. And I mean, we were under contract probably within the first 7 days. It was a 30-day close to a cash buyer that was going to keep it as a rental property. So at the end of the day, my net profit was well over probably 40K, 45K, if you include like everything. And she didn't even, the escrow holdback money, I mean, it was like she left the eviction, and the escrow officer, in terms of holdback, didn't even, usually you have to provide, I mean, I provided I provided some documentation from the attorney, and I ended up getting that 5K, the escrow holdback.
So I was going to ask a question that was probably really dumb about representing buyer and seller. So I'll just skip my dumb question because Tom has a better question in the comments. And I was earlier you were talking about, if this deal had gone differently, you would have done the memorandum. Can you talk about the details of that? What's that look like? Like, how do you protect yourself when you're giving someone cash? You don't know if they're going to follow through.
So a memorandum, and I use this strategy, it's more to keep investors honest, because I can't tell you, I mean, it's happened a couple times where you have a deal under contract and all of a sudden the seller goes radio silent, and you're like, And a lot of times what they do is they start talking to other investors, or other investors tell them, hey, I'll give you more money, just go silent. And so I've had this happen a couple times. And one investor that I know particular here in Tucson did it to me. And I recorded a memorandum because I was under contract. Basically what you're doing is you're recording the memorandum of that contract, so it becomes a lien on the property. So if they try to sell it, that memorandum's there with that contract attached, and now it's a cloud on title. So I'm using another example. So they went radio silent, and like 30 days later, I got a call going from another escrow company saying, hey, there's a lien, there's a memorandum. I'm like, yeah, I was under contract. And so they went with another investor that paid them a little bit more, thinking that they could but had I not done that, I would have been like hosed. And so anyway, they paid me for that contract. And so in this case, if I'm buying a home where it's a little bit different, if you don't have the contract to record the memorandum, I could have recorded a second lien to give her that money in second position, which I would have gladly done to help her out. But if you're buying a home, letting them stay there, and let's say they want some money up front to be able to go do some other things. If you record the memorandum, they now, it's a cloud on title. So if they were to think that they could get away with keeping your money and trying to sell it to somebody else, there's a cloud on title. The only thing that, if they decide not to sell, your money, it's harder to get, but it prevents them from doing something different if you do a memorandum, if that makes sense.
Yep.
Yeah, that makes sense. Interesting.
But I use that. I mean, I do a memorandum a lot.
Tom, let us know if that was helpful. If anyone else has any questions on the deal, let us know in the comments. We're on here live. If you're watching this after the fact, thanks, Tom. Go to carrot.com/deal and you can join the chat for the next live ones. And Tyler, I'll ask my dumb question, just just for a friend. You said EXP lets you do this as long as you're not representing both the buyer and the seller. But you're is that what you said? But you're
so I can list a property and disclose owner agent, but I can't represent both the seller, which is me, and represent the buyer. So I can't do dual agency. And a lot of real estate companies, from a liability standpoint, and E&O insurance typically won't cover a transaction if you're representing both sides and you own the property. So I can, and I don't like dual agency anyway, so I avoid it regardless of whether it's my property or I'm representing somebody else on a sale. So dual agency is a bad idea if you're an owner agent. It's a bad idea.
That makes sense. It's just a conflict of interest. You can't have, you can't be like, hey, Bob, come check out this property I have for sale. Or if you had one of your clients, you can't be like,
it's like an attorney representing both the plaintiff and the defendant. My personality doesn't, I like to take a stand, and I don't do well with dual agency.
Interesting.
Dude, a couple of questions I've got. So you had mentioned with this one, you sold it to a person, a cash buyer who's holding it as a rental. We talked several months back, and you mentioned, man, I've got the last check that I'm going to be sending to pay off this one rental property, or all the rental properties. I can't remember what it was. Heading into this next cycle, where we're not all completely sure what's going to happen to the real estate market. I know there will be opportunity for those who are able and willing to creatively get deals done. And so everybody that's watching this, all these creative type of ways that you're hearing on Behind the Deals or on our podcast, you guys need to really work on those. The recording a memorandum is a great way to make sure you're protecting the deals that you have under contract, doing creative finance, things like that. But are you still buying rental properties going into this cycle, given how strong the rental market is, or is that something that you're not doing moving forward?
We are. And again, thanks to Carrot, I was able to pay off our home and own all of our rental properties free and clear. And so my strategy over the last 4 years is still living off of pretty conservative and taking 100% of the proceeds and working on my balance sheet and paying off debt. So, I mean, we own everything free and clear, including our home. And again, thanks to Carrot. But to answer your question, it just depends. I mean, we bought a property about 6 months ago. We're doing our first Airbnb that we remodeled and just did a really good job. But for now, I'm really nervous about this market. I just think that my prediction is May, June of this year is going to be the top of this market cycle. And we're going to start to see things slow down and pull back. I was in the middle of it in 2008 through 2010. It's pretty challenging when the market's going the other way, and you've got to, I just had lunch yesterday with one of the top ugly home buyers here in Tucson. That's become a pretty good friend of mine. And we're going to be buying, but we're going to be a lot more conservative, and we're going to price, 10 to 15, maybe 20% when and if this market turns into our offers to anticipate a market that could be pulling back. So you just have to protect yourself.
And that's the kind of tricky thing about the phase that we're in is sellers are still seeing high prices, and they saw that their Aunt Sally sold for $1 gazillion more than it was supposed to be sold for last month. And so sellers are still locking into the high prices that are being sold at. Now, the investors, like you're saying, you have to now look at the 3, 6, 9 months out, and your investors are being more conservative. And so in this phase, there might be some more there might be some more investors and sellers who are having a harder time coming to a price where you guys might be getting leads where the person always wants more. I think this phase that happens until the sellers start to realize, oh, the market has changed. There's not as many buyers coming to buy properties anymore, and then they're going to start to make their prices more realistic. What do you see? Because you've been through multiple cycles before. This one of the really important things, y'all, that whenever you're listening to anybody right now in real estate, the majority of all like the wholesaler and flipper experts that are on TV, the majority of them were not around during the last, not on TV and like online. The majority of them were not around and doing business during the last downturn. And so if you're learning from someone who has only been in business the last 4 to 6 years, definitely learn from them on the things that they know really, really well. But then also tap into those who have been through cycles to really determine, well, what are the moves that you can make? Because oftentimes the ones who haven't been in those cycles are going to continue to drive into it. And they might be the ones getting caught with their shorts down without having a strategy. So what strategies should people be taking potentially going into a unknown real estate market?
My advice is sharpen your skill set and your tools, that's one reason I signed up for Investor Fuse. So I'm being really conservative. If I go 6 months without a deal and I'm not going to take a huge hit on a property, will happen if you get caught in the middle of the cycle. So for me, it's a matter of working on my YouTube videos, working on my content, working on my CRM to be prepared, because at some point the flow is going to dramatically increase, and putting really good systems in place to be able to handle that when and if this market does turn. But again, keep your powder dry, man. That's my advice. But I got hit hard. I basically lost everything and had to start from ground zero in the last turn. And so I've worked way too hard to have to do that again. So I'd rather, not get a deal than get a deal and have to write a check to close it.
Yep. Guys, there's some wisdom in there, guys. So number one, what I'm going to restate from Tyler, number one is get that tool belt built up. Brady, this is something to write down. I think we can and should be doing some amazing content in the next 3 to 6 months on all types of creative finance, on ways to just, to do deals more effectively. I think it'd be amazing. Even a course, there might be a course in here that we can partner with guys like Tyler on. But get the tool belt set. Okay. It's not everything can't look like a wholesale deal. Everything can't look like a flip. Maybe start to make it so if you're extended on a lot of flips right now, there's a flip that we're still trying to wrap up right now that I had funded from with Adrian. And so I funded all of his deals. And there were 4 flip projects that were midstream when he passed away last October. And we got 2 or 3 of them done quickly. But this one, it was just a challenge where in that transition, his wife was trying to make things happen. And we ended up just selling, it's not even sold yet, but selling the deal as is. Half the project is not even done yet to an investor. We're still going to get our money back. But there are some spots where some parts of the market are kind of having a little chink in the armor where offers aren't just going up and up and up. And sometimes they are starting to, like Tyler said, near that top or hit that top. So get the creative finance stuff down. Make sure that you're using every part of your lead to be able to go do something with that. Okay. A lot of investors are throwing away the retail leads. Work with an agent or become one and serve those clients better and add that income stream to your business. A lot of agents are throwing away these type of leads. This one right here is a $45,000 profit for Tyler. It did require him to do some more work, but he was able to do this because he sharpened that saw, learned new tools and skill sets that enabled him to solve this problem from the investor side of it. And so agents, you guys really need to lock into this. Otherwise, a lot of agents, I think, are going to be struggling big time if they can't solve bigger problems. And then the evergreen side. So if you have that evergreen locked in, there's not going to be a scenario that I can picture where people are still not going to be hitting the internet saying, I need to sell my house. And so if you can get in front of them at that first part of the search, just like Tyler is in Tucson and so many of our other customers are elsewhere, if you can get in front of them and build up that evergreen marketing now, when the market does take an adjustment, you've got a really, really cost-effective marketing channel that brings the most motivated prospects in, that you don't have to fork out a ton of money to get those leads in after you get momentum going. Okay, guys. So you can have very slim marketing costs, high margin deals when things start to get tight, or if they do. We don't know what's going to happen, but I think we all know the market will not continue like it was last year, a year from now.
Hopefully not. My goodness.
Yep.
I've got a question for you, Tyler, on I was going to ask about this anyways, and then you had mentioned, it's kind of funny, you mentioned having lunch with one of the biggest ugly home buyers in the area. I have this perception, maybe it's true, maybe it's not, that your area, your market, Tucson, you're 2 hours away from Phoenix, is saturated. I mean, Trevor and I were just talking about the other day how that seems to be the hub for influencers, educators, teachers in the real estate investing space. You got Pace Morby over there, Jameel, Steve Trang, Brent Daniels, a lot of educators in the area, and seem to be a lot of wholesalers and investors. Do you see it the same way? And how do you, what do you think about competition in general?
Well, yeah, it's very competitive. And one of the reasons I was fed up and almost done with this business is because I couldn't compete with those guys with money.
Mm.
They've got a 25, 30, $40,000 a month budget from pay-per-click, direct mail, all that. And I was doing all that. And my ROI on that stuff was it was horrible. And I'm like, I'm done with this. Like, I don't know. I was just, again, I was kind of at the end of my rope. There's more to the story, but for me, I know my lane. If I can do 1 to 3 deals a month and my average cost per deal is $300 to $400 per deal, like, I can stay in business. I can keep the doors open. If I don't do a deal for the next 6 months because I've been conservative over the last, 4 years and taken 100% of my proceeds and paid off everything, and now I've got a nice little cash flow, like, I can sustain the competition and or a change in this market. So, I mean, it's a matter of being disciplined and having a strategy in place to basically work yourself out of a job. But in terms of the competition, yeah, it's super competitive. And, yeah, it's, but I think, I welcome kind of this next market cycle because it's going to weed some of these guys out. The big players are still going to be around.
Yep.
But, a lot of this competition, especially these newbies that are overpaying properties right now, and they're doing full rehabs and are going to get caught in the middle of this market shift, and they're going to have to write a check to close a deal.
Yep.
And it's going to take 6 to 12 months to really work itself out. But the main reason for Carrot for me and organic SEO is to be able to compete with the big boys.
Yep. Yep.
So you had time, and you have time, not money. So that's cool to hear that. I wish a lot of newbies listening to this would take that to heart. It's like, because you see that question in groups and forums all the time. People are like, how can I compete with the guys with the giant marketing budgets? Like, there's no way. And they're focused on PPC. You can't, but you can with time. We went all in on SEO. I have another question. I'll hold off a minute because we got Adrian Alfaro SEO in the comments here. I'm conservative on my, I'll put it up so we can all see it. I'm conservative on my buy and holds, flips, but do you feel you can be conservative? I've been in since 2008. Is it just because the big punch in the jaw of the 2006 to 13 recession? Do you get what he's asking? I think.
Yeah, for me, I mean, I'll never forget. Like, I mean, it just the thought of losing everything and having to start all over. Yeah, I mean, I like Trevor said, a lot of people haven't been through that. I have, and that's one of the reasons why I'm losing deals right now because I am a little bit more conservative, but that's all right. But to answer your question, yeah, it's because I got my butt kicked in 2008.
Yeah. And that I think is key, guys and gals, is having, number one, I think we've got to have that vision. I talk about vision quite a bit, right? And for me, it starts with personal vision. We've got to have a personal vision. I do a 20-year, a 10-year, and a 5-year here at Carrot Camp this next week. That's one thing I'm going to be diving into deeply, because the personal vision guides the type of decision that Tyler is going to make. If he's clear on where he wants to be in 10 years and 5 years, or whatever those time periods are, then he can make business decisions that supports that personal vision. Now, where oftentimes we make decisions that are knee-jerk reactions on a deal because it sounds like it's a good deal, because we're making a decision that's usually a 1 quarter, 2 quarter, maybe a year, maybe 2 years out decision. Oh, this looks like it's probably a good decision to make some money. But what if you lost, what if you lost money on 5 deals and that sets you back, a year, 2 years, 3 years? What if you had a bunch of over leveraged flips? And I can tell you probably more people than these two hands during that last cycle, 2007, 8, 9, 10, more than the people I can fit on my fingers, people I know personally who got decimated during that because they had a bunch of flips in progress, and or they had a bunch of over leveraged properties, and then there was one that went wrong, and then it started this toppling of this domino effect because they were over leveraged and didn't have the things put in place to make sure that they were safe. And so the way that I always like to do it, y'all, is number one, start to build up, first of all, that reserve account for your family personally. Try to get to that 6-month mark, whatever your expenses are, your mortgage, things like that. Your other expenses, times it by 6 and get it to there first, ideally, before you start taking any of the big risks. And that's just me, because I'm a pretty risk averse guy. Maybe some of you guys are totally pumped at a 90-day reserves. Okay, that's you. I would suggest more like the 4 to 6 months. Number two, once you have that little cushion set aside and you start to create that vision, that 2010 5-year vision, then ask yourself, okay, how do I make sure that, what's the worst case scenario? So you always do like worst case scenario, best case scenario, likely scenario. Okay, so best case scenario over the next 1, 2, 3 years is X. Write that down. Best case is prices keep going up and this happens and this happens. All my flips work out great, or all my whatevers work out great. Okay, worst case scenario is the prices start to slide. I was making offers at 80% or 85% on the dollar in these markets because market's been going up like this for the last 3 to 4 years. And then I have a bunch of leverage. I have a bunch of loans at the bank, line of credit that's funding these things. All of a sudden, values go down because some of those loans, guys and gals, are actually tied to value of properties, right? Some of the loans are tied to the value of the property versus the debt service. Okay, debt to income or debt to whatever ratio. And
Loan to value.
Yeah, so the banks can then start to call that, right? And that's what sometimes happens. As soon as you start to have something fundamentally happen on the financial side of it, a bank could call that line of credit without any notice. And now you're sitting there with these half-done projects that you can't fund the finishing of the project, and then potentially you can't sell them either because you overpaid for those projects. And that's where more people than I know had to go into bankruptcy, had multiple foreclosures happen because they didn't have the backup plan. Okay, guys. So I don't want to kind of put the doom and gloom on y'all. I want to make sure that everyone's aware of what the worst case scenario could be, so you can then go and prepare for that. Okay, go and prepare for that. As soon as we recognize what the best case is, what the worst case is, then we can say what's the likely case, and now go all in on it and be aggressive on it, because you can be aggressive because you've protected yourself on the upside and the downside, and you can be aggressive as heck on that. And so I'm not telling anyone to not be aggressive or to be overly conservative. I'm saying be realistic, but protect the downside and always give yourself the best chance of the upside.
There's a interesting Adrian who asked about being conservative. We're got a little chat going. He said he thinks, Tyler, you may be being too conservative. He said, can it just be a mindset? I think it's interesting, worth like pausing on this real quick, because it's Adrian, in your perspective, he is being too conservative. Do you feel like you're being too conservative, Tyler, or is it like appropriately conservative for your goals?
Well, I have what is called my sleep factor meter.
And I love this.
A lot of the decisions I make are based on sleep factor. And if it's going to keep me up at night, I mean, there's things that are going to keep you up at night short term, but if it's something that's going to keep me up at night in a big way, then I'd rather not do it. But it all depends on age. I don't know how old Adrian is. I'm in my mid 50s, and the thought of me starting all over again is just painful. But I've also I've accumulated a lot of free and clear rentals. So at this point, I can be a little bit more conservative because my model's changed slightly,
Yeah.
and I've got the cash flow coming in, and we want more rentals, and we're going to be buying more rentals. And so ultimately, at the end of the day, I mean, my business model and really what I want to be doing is working myself out of a job where I'm not chasing deals, where I can go enjoy myself when Arizona hits 110 in the summertime. So it just, everybody is a little bit different, but I mean, it goes back to my sleep meter in terms of whether or not it's going to keep me up at night.
Dude, I love the way you said that. And yeah, Adrian, these are really good questions, because I think these are things everyone should think about. And it all goes back to, what are your goals and what's your plan? And
age
like
has a little
Tyler's,
bit to do with it too. I
yeah,
mean,
age for
I
sure
was in
does.
my mid 30s, you know, late 30s when the last correction hit, you know, and I had time on my side to pull myself out of bed and do it again. Like I just, the thought of having to do that again, just, I'm not interested.
Yep. 100%, man. And guys, here's kind of my last thought on your business strategy as it relates to this part of the convo. Then we'll move to a wrap on this episode. This has been a good one. My last thought on that is number one, as long as everyone has a clear plan, so the personal life vision, and then you map your business to help you grow towards that, your level of being conservative or not should just map to that. It shouldn't map to someone else's conservative or aggressive, stance. It shouldn't map to anything other than, is this going to give me the best chance to help lead me towards my personal life vision? And is it going to help me build my business, so it can be that fuel? Nothing else. Like, it shouldn't be based off of mine, Tyler's, Brady's. What I did 10 years ago, risk wise, like, I take way bigger risks today in certain things, but in certain things I take way smaller risks in, right? Like, a lot of people will look at me and go, oh my gosh, the business that I just bought in January, multiple 7-figure deal. It's like, that's a risk, right? That's a risk. But when I look at that, it's a very calculated risk. I weigh the upside, I weigh the downside. And what I always like to say is I want to make sure that the downside will not break me, and the upside is always an outsized upside. What is an outsized upside? An outsized upside is I will not put in $20,000 to get $25,000 back into an investment unless it's guaranteed and the money was already just sitting here. Okay. Like, if the money was just sitting here and I was doing nothing with it, it was 100% guaranteed. I'm like, and I don't have to think about it, and I just send it out and send it back in, I might do that. Right. But if I'm going to buy a business, as an example, for $1 million, I will not buy a business for $1 million with a chance of having it be worth $2 million. I won't do that. I'd buy a business with a chance of having it be worth 20 to 30 because it's got an outsized upside. But then I'd look at it and go, well, what's the worst case scenario? Worst case scenario is we drive it into the ground, and let's say I can sell the assets or whatever for 400 grand. I go, will that break me? Will losing 600 grand break me during the next 3 to 4 years? No, it won't. But the upside is an outsized upside. So where a lot of people get in trouble is the downside is bigger than it should be for you if you lose, and the upside isn't that great. Okay. If you win, the upside oftentimes is, oh, I put $200,000 in risk into this, and I'm going to make 50K. I'm like, I will not do that if the risk is heavy, if it takes my time. And so I want you guys to always think about that. Is this creating an outsized upside, or is this just a small upside with the same size downside? I better see a very small downside with a very big upside, or I'm not putting the money in or the time in to look at it.
I like that. I got one more quick question for you, Tyler, and then we'll go through our tip of the day segment and wrap it up. Tyler humbles himself. Tyler Sharper, and you've been through some of the terrible markets and great markets, and I think you're a really sharp dude. And so one thing I want to ask is, do you have a mentor, whether it's personally in real estate? Do you have somebody who had been through those markets before you that you consult with?
Yeah, I've got, that's why I went to lunch with a person that I did, but I've got some local mentors. My dad's been a big mentor of mine. He's on the commercial side of real estate. I do a lot of books. Trevor's become a big mentor of mine. And, with the podcasts and YouTube and a lot of those things, there's some really good mentors out there, but you got to be also careful in who you listen to and not get sucked into the rabbit hole. But yeah, I'm a reader. I like to study. I like to educate. And yeah, I've had some really good mentors along the way.
That's awesome. I was just curious. I know that you've learned some of those things the hard way. And I just think, I know me personally, I really believe like it's important to have somebody a few steps ahead of you, so you're not having to learn everything the hard way. And it sounds like you have. That's
Right.
awesome. Awesome. So one thing we like to do on Behind the Deal is do oh, I said tips of the day. I said it wrong. This is a bi-weekly show. Tips that actually work. Excuse me. Tips that actually work. Short tactical things you can do usually in your marketing, usually with your carrot site. But let me share my screen here and I'll pull this up. So a teaser before I throw out this tip. We're just about to, Braden behind the scenes just finished working on an awesome new series on video marketing for agents and investors. And we're talking about how to use your videos, how to optimize them for SEO, both within YouTube and on your carrot site. And we're going to have some awesome videos coming out over the next couple of weeks, as well as a new and improved video marketing playbook. Tyler is one of the people who actually got the video marketing playbook, carrot.com/video. It's totally free. Punch in your email. And it came with 52 ideas. Tyler grabbed the thing, actually put it to use, made, what was it, a video a week for a year? You did the
Yeah, I
playbook?
did on the retail
Same
side, a
person.
video a week for a year. And now I'm implementing that same strategy on the investor side. But yeah, I did it in 2021. That was my goal. I always avoided video, and I just told myself enough is enough. I'm not avoiding it anymore. It was painful at the beginning, but it was best use of my time ever.
So Tyler and I were talking a couple weeks ago. I said, "Hey Tyler, we're about to do we're going to do a content series on video marketing," and I was asking for some of his help and what he's doing within YouTube to rank higher. And man, like Tyler just said, like nobody is doing this on the investor side. This is super low hanging fruit. I don't see hardly any investors doing video content. And so let me share my screen here. If you're listening to the podcast, go ahead, watch the video, but I'll narrate this, just be a minute or two. Tyler's got a bunch of awesome videos on here. 3 reasons why you should live in Tucson, Arizona. The Loop in Tucson, Arizona. He's doing all of these niches. Everything that Trevor teaches at Carrot, niches based on your location, your expertise. He's doing videos on them. Some of them have a few hundred views. Some of them, this one's got over 5,000 views. So he's getting a lot of really high quality leads to these videos. The tip that actually works, speaking of low hanging fruit, is this YouTube chapters. Not enough people are doing this, and this is one of the things we teach in this video series we're about to put out. If you go into your YouTube description, let's say you shoot a video. In this case, it's living in 3 reasons why you should live in the east side of Tucson. In your description in YouTube, if you put the time, so 0:00 intro or welcome, you always need that as your first one. But then you break it apart so it's digestible. You say 3 minutes in, you talk about this reason why you should live on the east side of Tucson. He's got reason number 3, outdoor activities in the east side of Tucson. YouTube, similar to Google, YouTube is looking at chapters within videos when people search. So very similar to the title. It gives it quite a bit of weight. And so it's really easy to do. All you got to do is put the time in there and then the name of the chapter. And then that's all you do. YouTube will auto populate it and turn it into a chapter and put it in the play bar. So it's clickable, scrubbable. And then as well as put it, bam, this is kind of a newer feature on YouTube. It puts it in the bottom of the description. I think this just showed up a few weeks ago.
Yeah,
I just found myself,
month ago.
oh man. Yeah, pretty recent. I found myself on YouTube watching videos and, people scrub down. It's a way better user experience. It's way more digestible if somebody's watching your content so they can skip to the part that they want to see. But YouTube loves it and will help you rank higher if you're doing this. So take an extra 5-10 minutes to do this. At Carrot, we've actually found that this helps us plan our content better. So when we're bullet pointing, lining out videos, we'll write the chapters and then go and shoot it. And then we already have our chapters written, but not enough people are doing it. So take an extra 10 minutes. There's the tip that actually works.
I love it. And Tyler, you'd mentioned right before this, you said, hey, doing the video marketing, doing a video a week was like the best thing ever last year. Just so people can know what type of momentum or results did you start to get after you started doing that?
It's no different than SEO with Carrot, and it's my 2-6-1 formula, and that it's not an instant thing, although I got traction pretty early. You got to be in it for the long haul and you got to be consistent. And one thing too, that I just want to mention. If you look at my retail YouTube channel, it doesn't take a ton of subscribers and it doesn't take a ton of views in
Yeah.
order to get really, really, really good leads. And I think where a lot of people get avoid it is they think they need, 1,000+ subscribers and they need to have, 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 views, right out of the gate. And that is
Yep.
so far from the truth. Like you could, when I first started the channel a year ago, it was 0 in terms of subscribers. And you don't need a lot of subscribers. You just don't, or views, in order to get traction when it comes to YouTube.
And on the income side, so is this driving? So you mentioned it's driving leads.
Oh yeah.
What's it doing? Are they turning into business?
So it's good for, on the retail side, 1 to 5 deals a month. And I'm referring 100% of those deals out to my team, getting a 25% referral fee plus rev share in for EXP. So
Yep.
it's consistently after I'd say month 2 or 3, what really changed it is I started doing the monthly market update, which people like. I mean, every month, when's it coming? When's it coming out? And that one monthly thing. So I have a calendar and I've got 4, categories that I break it down each and every month that I do. One's the market update. One's usually, a subdivision that I go over. One's something about Tucson. And then the 4th one is more like an outdoor. I love the outdoor, cycling, biking, hiking. I do something outdoor related. And once I started doing the monthly market update is when I really started to get traction.
That's cool. And guys, investors can do the same darn thing, right? You guys can do the same darn thing, whether it is the monthly market update or something else. Just kind of find those pillars, and like Tyler did, you kind of nail your pillars, and then you have some of those consistent series type of videos like the monthly market update. And so we've got the investor video marketing guide as well. You guys can check that out. Grab the resource for that. But
and one thing that I'm doing right now that's really starting to take is I'm doing a live on StreamYard, and every month I do a live into the MLS, and I have an Excel spreadsheet, and we're tracking inventory levels. Cause, I mean, that's why, like, this market, going back to Adrian's question, it's starting to scare me just because things are starting to shift, and people want that every month. Like they want that information, and it just kind of, it's been, and again, there's 200 to 300 views from that one, from video to video. But again, it's people are tuning in. They want that information.
Are you doing anything to market the video itself other than the description, good title, things like that? Is it all organic through YouTube, or are you doing anything to market it?
It's all Trevor's playbook of organic SEO on YouTube. Like, it's the same playbook. It really is.
Yep. I love it, guys. So Alfonso said, or Adrian says, do you backlink to the Carrot website? In the description, you always want to link to your website. When we were looking at our data this last month, and I've shown it before, but I'll give you the verbal of it. The data shows in our system across 500,000 leads this past year or so, the highest converting single source. Now I'm going to give you an asterisk to this. Okay. The highest converting single source, according to the data, from traffic to lead is referral clicks from YouTube. Okay. It's almost 9%. It's 8-something% of all traffic who click a link in YouTube and go to a Carrot client's website turn into a lead. Now, why is that? You look at the number 2 source, and I'm going to tell you why an asterisk here in a second. The number 2 source that's highest converting is actually Instagram stories. Okay. Now, I'm not a huge fan of hamster wheel marketing. That's hamster wheel marketing for sure. But why does it convert great? It's because video. It's because people have a chance to feel like they can trust you. They have a chance to get to know you. They can see Tyler talk. He's a good dude, and he seems like he knows what he's doing. It's the whole thing that we talk about building authority, right? And so if you're an investor or an agent, one of the biggest things you guys can do right now in this market, while there's uncertainty in the market, what are people looking for? People are looking for people to turn to say, oh my gosh, I don't know where I should get my information, but I know something's probably going on. Interest rates are going up. Inflation's going up. There's turmoil popping everywhere. Crypto crashed like 40-50%. Coinbase, they're down big time because of crypto. All these things are happening. What are people clamoring for? People are clamoring for expertise and authority to help guide them through this situation. And people are going to go try to find it on video more often than not. So create these videos. get them, you put that description, post it, the link to your website over. They convert really, really well. Thank you guys for bringing that up. If you're on Instagram, cool. Same thing. Take some of that content, put it on IG, put the little fancy link deal, link it back to your Carrot side. This is for retail and the investor side. And then the organic SEO side, converts right around that 3.5% to 4%, sometimes a little bit more. But the reason for that conversion rate being slightly lower is because in general, people don't know about you before they click on your site, right? They don't know about you before they click on your site. They do Google search, Sell My House Fast Tucson. They find his site, they click it, and then the relationship building starts. But when you start the relationship building on YouTube or some other video source, they land in your site, they're already pre-framed and predisposed to work with you. So guys, start the video now. And I think in a year or 2 years, those who are doing what Tyler is doing, they're going to be looking back going, man, I'm so glad I did this, because people have been finding me in droves while the market's been getting a little bit crazier. And those who didn't are going to get lost in the shuffle going, oh my gosh, these people over here are crushing because they took the opportunity, took the chance while the market's starting to show some signs of a shift. So,
and make sure you have a really good about page. The most number 2 visited page on your website, retail or investor, is going to be your about page.
Yep.
So it's crucial to have a really, really good about page.
I love
Well,
it.
dang it, Tyler. That's my tip that actually works for 2 weeks from now. You just ruined it. Just kidding. Just kidding.
Cool.
Thanks, Tyler, for coming on. I enjoyed this one. I don't know if you did, Trevor. I thought this one was a lot of fun.
You know what? I know, Tyler, I've been kind of threatening for years, but we're at like the perfect spot now. And Keith Sant's on here as well. We're at the perfect spot where we need to elevate some of the best experts in our Carrot ecosystem to be able to get more content out to people. And so I'm serious about solving that now. And Keith's going to be here next week. We're going to be diving in and getting some real concrete next steps moving forward, so Keith can light up the world with his knowledge. And Tyler, I want to do the same thing with you. So I'm going to follow up with you here after Carrot Camp and see how we can impact, get your word, you get your message out to more people, to impact more of the world through the Carrot ecosystem. Because you're like the epitome of exactly what I want more of our clients to do. You got the hybrid side of it down. You're trustworthy, you're transparent, and you execute the heck out of anything that we teach. So guys, if you guys want to have Tyler back, pop in the comments box if this is live, or hit me up on IG, trevor.mauch. That's trevor.mauch. If you're listening to this on the podcast or recorded, hit me up on IG and say, would you love to have Tyler back, Keith back, Anthony Beckham back, to teach more consistently and to really drive what they're doing in this next market? Let me know if you guys enjoyed it and you want these guys back more often, and we'll find a way to make it happen. Right,
if anyone watching or listening has a crazy deal, if you're a Carrot member, you get an SEO lead, you got a crazy wacky deal you want to talk about and you think you'd like to be on the show, send me an email, brady@carrot.com, and let's talk about it. I'd love to hop on the phone and hear what you have. Love to share some more wacky deals on here.
Love it.
Yeah.
Awesome. Tyler, appreciate you, buddy.
Cool,
hopefully we get to see each other in person.
I'm jealous I'm not going to Carrot Camp, so have fun, man.
There's another one in September.
I want to go to the September one.
I want to, this is what I'm going to finish with, y'all. This is what I'm going to finish with. So this is something we haven't actually announced yet, but there's an event in Dallas, Texas at the end of August. And we've never done like a live event before. Okay. We've never done a live event before. And we're not doing this one all on our own. And I probably should get a special tracking link so we can make sure that we're tracking this thing. I think this might work, but let me send this through right here, guys. There's an event called $1 Million Meeting in Dallas, Texas at the end of August. And Mike Hambright with Investor Fuel Mastermind and Investor Machine, good friend of his, we have decided to partner on this event. And so it's the end of the month, August 31st and September 1st, I believe it is. It's going to be several hundred investors and investor hybrids that are going to be there. We're going to be there. I'm going to be there. A good chunk of my team is going to be there. We're controlling at least half a day of the content. And there's a lot of Carrot customers who are going to be speaking and who are going to be there. And we're going to see if we can't blow this out of the water to make it the best spot for Carrot people to get together outside of Carrot Camp, because we limit those to 15 people because of space. So here I hope to get several hundred Carrot members in Dallas, Texas together in the sweltering heat. We'll be in air conditioning down there. And we're going to dive into frameworks I've never taught outside of my team this last few weeks. I'm going to be taking it to the next level on how to build that business through this market cycle. We're going to have speakers there who are some of our best clients. Tyler, let's chat and see what you're doing that week. I'd love to see if it works out. But guys, check it out. Go over there, milliondollarmeeting.co/carrot, milliondollarmeeting.co/carrot. Go grab it, and then let's meet up there and make this the best next 6 to 12 months of your business during this transition. So let's make it happen, y'all. milliondollarmeeting.co/carrot. And I'm pumped about it. It'll be fun.
Awesome. Well, thanks for tuning in, everyone. Leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. If you're listening to this, go subscribe to our YouTube channel, Carrot on YouTube, if you're watching this. And we will see you in a couple weeks for the next Behind the Deal. Thanks, Tyler. Thanks,
awesome. Thanks for having me. Thank you.
Hey, thank you. Good work, Brady, as always, buddy.